Doing an interview with my friend of 33 years, Charlie Mack. He actually basically jumped in front of a bullet for me before. He literally ran toward a guy who was shooting. We were in a situation and a police officer went to pull his gun on Charlie and I grabbed the gun.
Yes. And wouldn't not let it go.
And wouldn't let it go.
Everybody knows Will Smith, the Fresh Prince, Hollywood's golden boy, the funny, family-friendly star.
Tell me your rap name again.
They call me the Fresh Prince.
All right, good. That's what we're gonna call the show.
But before the sitcom and the Grammy, Will actually started out from the streets of Philadelphia with strong ties to a particular Philly gang, Junior Black Mafia, or JBM. At that time, Will was tied with two well-known street figures, Charlie Mack, who jumped in front of a bullet for him, and Leroy Bucky Davis, a shot caller in the JBM.
He actually basically jumped in front of a bullet for me before. He literally ran toward a guy who was shooting.
Charlie Mack, Will Smith's first shield in Philly. Will Smith didn't make it out of West Philadelphia alone, and from the very start, Charlie Mack had his back. Standing 6'6" and nearly 300 pounds, Charlie wasn't just muscle. He was a protector, a guide, and the streets' version of a big brother.
I am Charlie Mack. I call myself the servant, the big brother of Philadelphia.
And everyone knew it. His reputation carried weight on the streets and in the community. He even outsmarted a young man pointing a gun at him at a gas station. It was clear Charlie was someone you didn't mess with. Then in 1986, DJ Jazzy Jeff came through with a new path. He told Charlie, "Come work security for us, you will see the world." And Charlie agreed. From that moment, he wasn't just security for Will, he became family.
Jeff came to the party. He was like, you mind, I could talk to you. I go, what's up? He's like, I got this record out, would you mind working with us? Work with you? I'm puzzled. I'm like, work with you? He's like, you do security, right? But I remember I told you I got locked up twice. So for me, the reason why I hustled was to end poverty in my life.
That bond only grew stronger. Charlie later became Will's executive personal assistant, and in 1988, he even jumped in front of a bullet for Will, inspiring him and Jeff to make a song for him titled Charlie Mack, The First Out the Limo. But being loyal in Philly came with risk. In the winter of 1989, Will and Charlie were at WDAS-FM for Rap Digest, hosted by Mimi Brown, when two old promoters, Dana Goodman and William Hendricks, confronted Will. Out of nowhere, Hendricks shoved Charlie. True to form, Charlie swung and knocked him out cold. The aftermath was messy. Hendricks ended up with a fractured eye socket, nearly blind in one eye, with 6 stitches. Will got arrested for aggravated assault, conspiracy, simple assault, and reckless endangerment. He spent the night in a West Philly cell and even gave autographs to other inmates, later calling it the worst night of my life. Meanwhile, Charlie walked free. Then rumors started circulating. According to the National Enquirer, Hendricks' 13-year-old son, Sheldon, was kidnapped by a JBM member who said, there's money on your head. Soon after, Will's charges were dropped and Sheldon was released. Some said Hendricks was paid $25,000 to keep quiet, which only reminded everyone that the streets had power to protect or punish. Still, Charlie stayed central in Will's life. He worked with him for years, even after Will moved to Los Angeles.
And me and Charlie was out the other night. Somebody walked in that had gone hard. And I was like, hey, Charlie, like, no.
Don't say that.
He was like, nope, not that one.
Back in Philly, Charlie became a big promoter, discovered Boyz II Men, supported Meek Mill, and helped shape music videos and films with Cadillac Escalades, Chrysler 300s, and Lexani rims. He even advised Will on marrying Jada Pinkett Smith. And that was the thing. Charlie Mack was more than just muscle. He was the bridge between the streets and the spotlight, and for Will, that made him priceless. But the world Charlie moved in wasn't small. It was shaped by forces bigger than himself. And in that same world, another figure was about to enter Will's life, Leroy Bucky Davis, whose street power would challenge Will in ways he had never faced before. Leroy Bucky Davis, Will Smith's unlikely patron. This is where the story gets personal for Will. Just as he was stepping into the music world alongside DJ Jazzy Jeff, Leroy Bucky Davis entered his life. And from the very first moment, Bucky wasn't just another figure on the streets, he was a protector, a mentor, and an ally who could guide Will without letting the chaos of the streets consume him. Their bond formed quickly. Parties, late-night pool games, and shared moments of adrenaline became the foundation of their friendship. Both loved to gamble, but it wasn't just about winning or losing. It was about respect, strategy, and reading people. One legendary game crystallized that bond. Bucky, down $30,000, slammed his custom BMW keys onto the table in frustration. Will, confident from his early music earnings, threw in his Benz keys. When the game ended, Will handed Bucky's keys back. In the ruthless world of high-stakes gambling, letting someone walk with their dignity intact was almost unheard of. That gesture transformed Bucky's perception of Will. This wasn't just another kid chasing fame. This was someone with integrity, someone worth investing in. The stakes became higher when Will hit rock bottom. His music career had stalled and the IRS buried him under a staggering $2.8 million in taxes. Dreams of stardom felt fragile against the crushing reality of debt. Bucky stepped in without hesitation, offering $10,000, the exact lifeline Will needed to move to Los Angeles and restart his journey. That money wasn't just cash, it was a vote of confidence, a signal that someone who truly understood the streets believed in Will's talent and potential. It was trust forged in a world where loyalty was often fleeting. But proximity to Bucky came with inherent danger. Will wasn't a JBM member, yet his association drew attention. FBI agents snapped photos of him in JBM cars, some even registered in his name. A casual observer might have missed the threat, but Bucky didn't. He offered guidance with a clarity Will couldn't yet fully appreciate. Nah, this is not your lane. It was a warning disguised as advice, a lifeline wrapped in street wisdom. Tragedy struck with brutal swiftness. Just days after lending Will the money, Bucky was gunned down outside a West Philly row house on May 14, 1989. The woman accompanying him vanished, leaving whispers and speculation in her wake. Revenge, debts, power struggles, theories swirled, but the truth was simple and devastating. Bucky never got to see the man he helped build, never witnessed Will's rise to superstardom. Even in such a brief span, Bucky's influence on Will was profound. He taught him how to navigate the streets, how to earn respect without losing himself, and how to survive when power and danger collided. And when paired with Charlie Mack's guidance, muscle, loyalty, and strategic protection, Will had an almost unprecedented advantage. He was shielded, mentored, and given insight into a world most young artists would never understand. In the shadow of these two figures, Will Smith learned some of his earliest lessons about trust, loyalty, and survival. He saw firsthand that success wasn't just about talent or opportunity. It was about reading the room, knowing who to trust, and understanding the unspoken rules that govern the streets. These lessons would echo long after Charlie and Bucky were gone, shaping a young man who could walk confidently between the worlds of danger and fame, ready to face whatever the future held. The Junior Black Mafia, or JBM, ruling Philadelphia's underworld. Even with Bucky gone, the streets of Philadelphia kept moving, and the lessons Will had learned lingered. To truly understand the pressures and dangers surrounding him, you have to understand the organization that defined his world, the Junior Black Mafia, the JBM. This wasn't just a gang, it was a machine, a network of power, money, and violence that had its claws in every corner of the city. The JBM emerged around 1986 in Southwest and West Philly, founded by brothers Hayward and James Cole, alongside Aaron Jones. Their goal was clear: control the drug trade with precision, structure, and an iron fist. This was business, but brutal business, modeled after the old black mafia of the 70s, giving them instant street credibility. Their motto, "Get down or lay down," wasn't a suggestion, it was a warning. Buy from them, pay the street tax, or face the consequences. And for those who underestimated them, the consequences were swift and violent. By the late 80s, the JBM was run like a business, but a deadly one. They had lieutenants, squad bosses, bodyguards, and hitmen. Most were barely out of their teens, but they acted like kings. Beamers, Benzes, diamond watches, gold rings with JBM iced in. They threw wild parties, rolled deep in fancy cars, and flashed money that drew attention from all over Philly.
This is why came together, man, so that way they could have organized structure.
But wealth alone didn't cement their reputation, it was fear. By 1989, the JBM had already left a trail of bodies. Their violence wasn't just against rivals, it was against anyone who threatened their empire or crossed them. Boxers, teenagers, and neighborhood figures alike learned early that their reach was absolute. From the murder of boxer Gregory and his girlfriend in May 1988 to the cold-blooded executions of JBM members who tried to leave, the message was always clear: loyalty, obedience, or death. Even a misfired snowball could turn deadly, as in the tragic case of Michael Waters, a teenager caught in the crossfire. Meanwhile, external threats kept the pressure on. The Jamaican Shower Posse, notorious for showering bullets on anyone who crossed them, was moving into Philly at the same time. The JBM wasn't just defending territory, they were at war, fending off an equally ruthless enemy while managing internal rivalries and power struggles. Every move required strategy, loyalty, and constant awareness.
For 20 years, beginning in the late 1960s, the infamous Black Mafia was involved in extortion, murder, and embezzlement in the predominantly African-American sections of Philadelphia.
For Will, observing this world from the edge was as educational as it was terrifying. He wasn't a member, but through Bucky, he saw the machinery of control and influence firsthand. He saw how quickly wealth could turn to bloodshed, how respect was earned and lost in moments, and how life could change in a single bad decision. The JBM's empire was a masterclass in street power, but it came with invisible lessons for anyone on the perimeter. Lessons about trust, caution, and survival that would stay with Will long after he left Philly. Of course, JBM's empire wasn't infinite. Like many drug organizations, their reign was intense but short-lived. By the early 90s, internal greed, addiction, and law enforcement pressure fractured the network. Multi-agency investigations, insider tips, and high-profile arrests began dismantling the once feared empire. Members who had seemed untouchable suddenly faced indictments or worse. The street had its own justice system, but so did the law. And in the end, both came down hard on the JBM.
The organized group, one of the bloodiest crime syndicates in modern U.S. history, collapsed in the late 1980s after several successful prosecutions and internal conflict.
When you accept yourself, accept a certain lifestyle, you have to deal with the consequences that come with it.
For Will Smith, the takeaway was more than just cautionary tales. It was preparation. The streets had taught him that every alliance carried risk, every favor had weight, and every choice could have consequences. Charlie, Mack, and Bucky had provided guidance and protection, but the JBM showed the larger picture. A world where power, money, loyalty, and violence existed in a delicate, deadly balance. It was a world Will needed to navigate carefully, even as his dreams started reaching beyond the block. Understanding the JBM wasn't just about fear, it was about insight into strategy, into people, and into survival. And those lessons would be as crucial to his journey as talent, ambition, or luck. Because in Philly, even the brightest star couldn't shine without learning how to dodge the darkness. Will Smith's Philadelphia origins, the makings of a star, and the seeds of trouble. And this is the thing. While Bucky and Charlie were guiding Will through the streets, teaching him how to move safely and how to spot danger before it found him, life at home and in school was shaping another side of him. His West Philly roots, the charm and quick thinking honed in classrooms and playgrounds, were preparing him for something just as important as street survival: success. It's time to switch gears, to step away from the world of loyalties, hustles, and hidden threats and look at the young man behind the Fresh Prince persona. Willard Carroll Smith Jr., born September 25, 1968 in West Philadelphia, was growing up in a neighborhood that wasn't the roughest in the city, but it wasn't safe either. Drugs, violence, and poverty were never far away, and the streets he navigated every day were lessons in survival that no classroom could teach. At home, discipline and order were rules of the game. His mother, Caroline, worked for the school board. His father, Willard Sr., ran his own refrigeration business. The strict guidance of his parents gave Will not just boundaries, but also the hunger and determination that would carry him far beyond the city streets. In school, his personality was impossible to ignore. Teachers saw his wit, charm, and quick thinking. Classmates couldn't help but be drawn to his energy. By the time he hit Overbrook High, Will had earned a reputation that matched the nickname given by his 10th grade teacher, Mrs. Brenda Brown, Prince Charming. But Will added his own twist, fresh, turning charm into a brand, an identity, and eventually a phenomenon. And then came music. In 1985, at a party, Will met Jeffrey Towns, better known as DJ Jazzy Jeff. Will had the rhymes, Jeff had the beats, and together they became DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Their style, fun, clean, story-driven rap, stood out in a world dominated by gangster rap, and parents and kids alike were listening. By 1986, their first single dropped, and by 1989, Parents Just Don't Understand won the very first Grammy for Best Rap Performance. At just 20 years old, Will Smith was on top of the world. But as we've seen before, success has its own dangers. Money, fame, and attention came fast, and Will, like many young stars, spent freely. Yet he overlooked one important detail: the IRS. By the early 90s, Will owed $2.8 million in back taxes, and the government moved in, freezing accounts, repossessing possessions, and forcing him to sell nearly everything. Overnight, the Fresh Prince went from Grammy-winning rap star to nearly broke.
I had motorcycles and cars. I called the Gucci store in Atlanta, and I was like, "Hey, will y'all close it down if I bring my friends?" And I'm smiling, but that's stupid.
And the one thing he didn't do? Pay taxes. For 2 years, he ignored the IRS, thinking the money would never run dry. By the early 90s, he owed $2.8 million. The government froze his accounts, took his things, and forced him to sell most of what he had. Just like that, the Fresh Prince went from Grammy star to almost broke.
I had spent most of my money, like all of it. I spent all my money. And I didn't forget, but I didn't pay the IRS.
Will later joked, "Before I got in trouble with Uncle Phil, I was already in trouble with Uncle Sam."
Before I was getting in trouble with Uncle Phil, I was in trouble with Uncle Sam.
Yet it wasn't just about the money. That low point, those moments of uncertainty, failure, and pressure would become a turning point. Hollywood was waiting, and with a charm, wit, and street-smart lessons from West Philly, Will was ready to pivot. Every gamble, every lesson, every relationship with people like Bucky and Charlie had prepared him for this next chapter. And now, with his music career stalling, it was time for a new world, primetime television. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air wasn't just a show, it was a chance for Will to take everything he had learned from the streets of Philadelphia to the bright lights of Los Angeles and make it his own. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, life imitating art and escape. For most people, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was just a sitcom. Funny, light, a classic everyone loved. But for Will Smith, it was more than comedy. It was his life, disguised as a show. Leaving Philly wasn't just about chasing dreams, it was about survival. The city had grown dangerous, and staying meant risking everything he had worked for. He knew it was time to step away, to leave the streets behind and start fresh somewhere new. The timing couldn't have been worse. His album And in This Corner had flopped, performance fees were cut, and the IRS was still chasing him. By then, Will was broke, selling whatever he could in Philadelphia.
The IRS took all that stuff, so I was like, broke. Being famous and broke is a combination.
At his lowest point, a small suggestion changed everything. His girlfriend told him to meet people in Los Angeles, where the opportunities were waiting.
My girlfriend was like,
"Dude, we're not doing this. Like, you're not just gonna be laying around this house all day. You're gonna go do something."
I was like, what? What am I supposed to do?
Go where people is doing it.
Where are people doing it?
Go to the Arsenio Hall show.
That led him to the Arsenio Hall show, where he mixed with industry figures. There, he was introduced to Benny Medina by Charlie Mack, a music manager who had grown up in Watts but later moved to a wealthy Los Angeles neighborhood.
I introduced Will Smith to Benny Medina. Benny Medina happens to be the real Fresh Prince, went from Watts to Beverly Hills. So I took Will to LA, introduced him to Benny Medina.
And Medina's life became the inspiration for a show, and he saw Will as the perfect person to play it.
So I went to the Arsenio Hall show, and I met a dude named Benny Medina. Benny Medina is the real-life Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, except he actually went from Watts to Beverly Hills. Same basic concept, way shorter distance.
He eventually introduced Will to Quincy Jones, the legendary producer.
And he said, "Hey, I want you to meet Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones is producing with me." So I find myself at Quincy's, and there's actors and artists and celebrities and politicians, like everybody's at Quincy's house.
And a moment that felt like a movie, Will auditioned right in Quincy's living room, in front of a star-studded audience. The gamble worked. Will was eventually signed in 1990 and built the show around him.
Tell me your rap name again? They call me the Fresh Prince. All right, good. That's what we're gonna call the show. I need you to do this. I need you to go ahead, take a few minutes, take 10 minutes, study the script, and I'm gonna clear all the stuff out the living room, and we're gonna have everybody sit down in the living room. We're gonna do an audition.
This made Fresh Prince of Bel-Air a huge hit, turning him from a struggling rapper into a household name. Even so, shadows followed. 70% of his earnings went to the IRS for the first 3 years. But beneath the laughs, the show told a deeper story. A West Philly kid, forced to leave danger behind, was given a fresh start in a new world. The line between fiction and reality blurred because that was Will's life. Leaving Philly and stepping into a new world gave Will a fresh start, but the skills that carried him through, the charm, the cleverness, the confidence, were forged on the streets and in the classrooms of West Philadelphia. Those early lessons didn't just prepare him for fame, they created the two sides of Will Smith's life, the dichotomy, from Fresh Prince to Philly Will. Okay people, it's time to switch gears again. I know you've probably heard about Will Smith's two sides, the Fresh Prince and Philly Will. Now, it's time to add some context to those names you've been hearing. On one side, there's the Fresh Prince, the funny, smooth kid who rapped about parents in school and later became the star of a sitcom that defined the 90s. On the other side, there's Philly Will, the boy from West Philadelphia, where the streets were rough and respect was hard-earned. And here is how it started. The world first met the Fresh Prince in 1985 when Will teamed up with DJ Jazzy Jeff. Their music was fun, light, and safe. Songs like Parents Just Don't Understand made him a hit on MTV and a favorite for families.
Me and Jeff had come out with our smash hit, Parents Just Don't Understand. We made a bunch of money. We won a Grammy. Album was triple platinum.
But the charm, cleverness, and confidence that made him a star were forged in a very different classroom, the streets of West Philly. There, Will learned lessons that no Grammy could teach: how to read a room, how to earn respect, and how to navigate dangerous situations without losing himself. Those lessons didn't vanish when he moved to Los Angeles. They became the foundation for a Fresh Prince persona. Balancing these two worlds was an art. While Hollywood saw the joke-cracking, camera-ready star, the Philly Will inside him stayed sharp, alert, and ready for anything. That duality explained why Will could handle high-pressure situations in ways others couldn't, and why his instincts often surprised even the people closest to him. This balance, the entertainer and the streetwise Philly kid, stayed with him through every twist of fame. From his early Grammy years to navigating Hollywood deals, from blockbuster movies to family life in the public eye, both sides shaped the man Will became. And in 2025, when the city of Philadelphia renamed a block Will Smith Way, it wasn't just a celebration of fame. It was a nod to the kid from West Philly, whose wit, charm, and street smarts carried him from near ruin to superstardom.
The Will Smith way is encompassed in the lessons that I got from my father, my mother, and my grandmother.